Everyone's calling for a Bitcoin crash. Bitcoin's going to 50,000. Meanwhile, Putin just announced Russia and US are mining Bitcoin together at a nuclear power plant. JP Morgan's offering Bitcoin to wealthy clients. Bank of America doing the same. Trump media just bought like $40 million worth of Bitcoin. Michael Saylor is back at buying again. And 8 million Bitcoin, nearly half the supply, moved just in the last 12 months. So, I don't know. Does that sound like a bear market to you? Alright, let me break this down. According to Kommersant, Putin said the US and Russia are in talks over joint management of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant. It's basically Europe's largest nuclear facility. The plant essentially generates 137 gigawatt hours of electricity per day. That's a massive supply of power. So here it is. Here's the power plant, the red here. And you can see it's in Ukraine. And here's the controversial part. These discussions are happening without Ukraine's participation. So think about that for a second. The two biggest nuclear powers on Earth are negotiating over Bitcoin mining rights at a plant that's not even in their country. It's pretty insane. Okay, now here's the thing. The plant's been shut down since Russia captured it in March 2022. And all 6 reactors are in safety shutdown, essentially. And the International Atomic Energy Agency has said that the plant, it can't be operated safely. But Putin's claiming that the US is interested in using this power plant as a Bitcoin mining facility. Trump's team is apparently discussing this as part of a Ukraine peace plan. So this isn't just about Bitcoin, it's the future of money, geopolitics, and the future of energy. But here's what nobody's talking about. So while everyone's watching Putin and Trump negotiate over this power plant, the banks are making their move. So while the retail is panicking, all the major banks are starting to roll out Bitcoin products. And when you connect what Putin's doing with what these banks are doing, you realize this isn't a bear market. We're watching the biggest institutional land grab in Bitcoin history. Okay, so let's dig deeper here. So Russia already controls more than 16% of global Bitcoin mining, right? And after they got kicked out of the SWIFT banking system in 2022, they basically stopped buying US treasuries and started mining Bitcoin. And this isn't random. When you can't use the dollar system anymore, you build your own monetary infrastructure. You don't have a choice, so they didn't have a choice. Now here's why the nuclear power plant matters. Bitcoin mining, it requires steady, cheap energy, right? Cheap electricity. Nuclear power obviously provides that. Continuous output, and there's no weather dependency or anything like that. Remember what Elon said? He was saying energy is the real currency. Bitcoin is just converted into digital money.
So energy is the true currency. This is why I said Bitcoin is based on energy. You can't legislate energy. You can't just, pass a law and suddenly have a lot of energy.
Essentially, you've got 3 parties here. You have Russia, the US, and Ukraine, all fighting over who controls this power plant. And Bitcoin mining is part of the negotiation, which is insane to think about. Because whoever controls the energy essentially controls the ability to mine Bitcoin. And whoever mines the most Bitcoin has a strategic advantage in the next monetary system. Now, while Russia's playing the energy game, US banks are adopting. So you can see here, I think PNC Group is the only one that's launched custody and trading, both things. But it looks like, the high net worth clients are getting it at US Bank. No trading there yet. Announced at Charles Schwab, BNY Mellon, State Street. All the big banks are essentially getting into Bitcoin. As this tweet says, banks work for the rich. That's why the high net worth clients get it first, and then the regular people get it. But here's the thing, right? Most of these banks are still in the not yet mode. When all these actually get announced and they open up for trading and allowing custody, the floodgates are going to open. That's trillions of dollars of money flow coming into Bitcoin. Pension funds, 401ks, retirement accounts, all of them getting Bitcoin exposure automatically. And if we go back to this tweet, this was Michael Saylor just a couple weeks ago. We're hearing rumors that major banks in the US will start buying Bitcoin, custodying, and issuing credit against Bitcoin in the first half of 2026. That's months away. That's next year. which is, I mean, it's almost New Year and we're almost here. All right, now let's look at what's happening behind the scenes. This is Bitcoin supply by age, okay? So 8 million Bitcoin, this is Joe Burnett, 8 million Bitcoin has moved in the last 12 months. That's 40% of the supply moved in the last months. Okay, but check this out, okay? And this shows the wallets holding over 1,000 Bitcoin, so basically the whales. And look what just happened, right? At the end of 2025, it's shooting up. So what that means is they're buying Bitcoin. All the whales are stepping back in. So what's happening here is essentially the 8 million Bitcoin that moved from the OGs. So think about the 2013 guys, the pizza Bitcoin guy, the Domino's guy, right? It's getting absorbed by institutions now. BlackRock, right? Strategy, sovereign wealth funds. And the crazy part is the price barely moved. In the past cycle, if you imagine $8 million, 8 million Bitcoin hitting the market, and we'd see like a 80% crash. And we're only down like 30% from the all-time highs. And that's because the institutions are buying the dip. And who else is buying the dip? I mean, you could see Trump media just bought 451 Bitcoin worth over $40 million, right? Saylor announcing tomorrow that he's going to buy more, as he does every week, back to orange. I think last week he bought some more cash reserves for his preferred stocks. So he's buying more. They own like 671,000 Bitcoin now, which is insane. Check out my video on what I think is going to happen with the U.S. acquiring strategy. I'll link it below. So these guys aren't selling. Right? They're not trading. They're accumulating their Bitcoin. As Saylor said in the past, we're always buying. Here's Anthony Scaramucci. He just said something wild too. Here, check it out.
Answer the question: is Bitcoin an asset class? Is it an asset class? If the answer is yes, then I believe, therefore, it should trade to the market capitalization of gold. It represents an asset class. That means that a portfolio consultant will go to a large-scale institutional investor and say, you need to allocate to gold. You need to allocate to Bitcoin.
So he's essentially saying that Bitcoin should be at par with gold. 200,000 is too low for Bitcoin. He's saying it should be closer to 500,000. I think at 450,000, Bitcoin is basically like 30% of gold if gold market cap didn't move. So I think gold market cap is like 31 trillion today. Bitcoin is whatever, 2 trillion. So at 30% of gold, it would be around 450 per Bitcoin, 450,000. And that's just 30% of the gold's market cap. Some people obviously believe that Bitcoin is better than gold and it should be higher than that market cap. I think that's going to happen, but it'll take a long time. Gold's been around forever. There's a large knowledge gap people need to learn about with Bitcoin, and that's going to take a long time. But that's 450,000 per Bitcoin if you do that math, if it takes just 30% of that, of gold market cap. Now, everyone keeps saying the 4-year cycle, Bitcoin's going to crash, but the CIO of Bitwise, he thinks different.
I do think it's less important now than it was in the past. I think the 4-year cycle is being replaced by a 10-year grind, by which I mean there are big new forces in the world. They started coming in with the launch of the ETF in January of 2024. They were accelerated by regulatory progress in January of this year. We have the growth of stablecoins and tokenization. I think those forces are bigger and stronger than the forces that historically caused the 4-year cycle. So specifically, I expect the market to be up next year. And so therefore, from that perspective, I think the 4-year cycle is quote unquote dead.
Okay, so he's basically saying 4-year cycle is dead and we're going to see a 10-year grind with lower volatility. And I tend to agree with him. I think everything changed once the ETFs came out in January of 24. And the cycle isn't dead just because it's just magically dead. It's dead because the ETFs, the market changed. It's a whole different game now. And the last thing here, so this theory has been around for a while where gold follows Bitcoin with a lag. And everyone's saying it's kind of been disproved and gold has shot up like insane amount. And Bitcoin has not followed at all this whole year. but I think it's going to follow. So in 2016, gold moved first, like this chart shows. Then Bitcoin kind of just like whatever, dragged along. Then it shot up. Then gold moved. This Bitcoin dragged along again and shot up later. So this is actually just saying that Bitcoin actually follows, but just the time lag is not as immediate as other people thought. Of course, this can be, other market behaviors as well, or other market factors. But this is a cool chart to look at if it does follow. If Bitcoin is an alternative to gold, it should follow. And guess what? Gold did hit an all-time high just now. So if Bitcoin's lagging, if this indicator is correct, if history repeats, which is big if, but Bitcoin can shoot up. Okay, so let's bring it all together. Putin and Trump are negotiating over Bitcoin mining at a nuclear facility. Russia already controls around 16% of Bitcoin mining. Every US major bank is rolling out Bitcoin products in the next year. 8 million Bitcoin changed hands from the OG to the institutions. Trump media bought $40 million worth of Bitcoin. Saylor's racking it up with 671,000 Bitcoin now. Scaramucci saying even 200,000 is undervalued. Bitwise says the cycle is dead. And gold just signaled Bitcoin's next move. So if you're waiting for a crash, you might be waiting forever. This isn't 2018 or 2022. The institutions are here and they're not leaving. All right, if this helps you understand what's really happening, drop a like, subscribe, comment below. What do you guys think? What's going to happen to Bitcoin in 2026? Do you think it'll follow gold's path? Or do you think it's going to die? And subscribe. I'm breaking this down every single week. And I'll see you guys next year. Happy New Year. Peace.